Hi guys, it's Kales and I want to talk about the best and worst books I read in 2017. It's 2018 and it's the beginning of the year and I want to talk about books that I read last year, the best ones and the worst ones. That sounds simple enough, right? So I picked 5 of my favorite books that I read and 5 of the least favorite books I read. I did not include any books that I DNF'd because I technically didn't read them. And I wanted to include books that I finished, and I think books that I DNF'd in 2017 might be a different video. Here goes nothing! Let me start with the 5 worst books that I had in 2017. And in no particular order, one of my least favorite books that I read in 2017 was called Wishing Day by Lauren Miracle, and I read this book for a challenge, like, back in June. I read it because I needed to listen to a play-away to complete a bingo card at work. And this was just one of the most boring, awful books about a young girl who gets wishes on her 13th birthday and she, like, practically freaking wastes them on, like, wanting to be loved and, like, have a kiss. And I just was like, oh my gosh, can a 13-year-old please have more loftier visions than this? Thanks, okay, bye. I guess I shouldn't expect much more from the woman who wrote TTYL. I don't even want to talk about this book. I hate this book so much. Sweetbitter was one of the worst books I ever read. Ever. And I don't even know how I finished this book. I think it was out of just like sheer... Oh my gosh. This book was just like a bunch of people f***ing up. For real. I'm not kidding. Like, they all just f***ed up. And like nobody, like, God, there was this whole thing with like crack, that she just like tried crack. It was about this girl who moved to New York and became like a high-end waitress and like at this dining place, and about her sex life and supposedly her development in New York. But like, I had no idea where she was from. She could have been anybody. There was no characterization. Also, there was like all these jumping around things. The style was really stupid. It just, oh my god, it's a terrible, terrible book. So bad. Ugh. Another book that I absolutely could not stand was These Broken Stars. This was a traveling book that I received, and that was the only reason I finished it, was so that I could pass it on to the next person, because I was not going to DNF a traveling book that I received. Oh my god, it just, oh god, their relationship was dumb. They like, what was the alien thing that was there, and like the conspiracy. And it was like not even survival, and it was so cliche about like the princess and the hardworking guy. It was like, I'm a ring, and they fall in love, and like she's like a half person and dies. I didn't like it. It was whiny and it was dumb and it was predictable, but not, the romance was predictable, but the alien portion didn't even make sense. No, it was a really stupid attempt at a sci-fi romance. Then I read Exquisite Captive, which I didn't talk to you guys about because I read it in October or November and I missed those wrap-ups, but this was a book that had a lot of really good potential because it was really interesting. It was about like this gin black market, and it coming to Earth, and like this girl who was chained to her master, and like they have to grant 3 wishes and then they get passed on to another master, and like there's a whole other world and a revolution happening, and I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds really cool. No, lame as hell, just awful, and like the main character, I'm sorry, I can't stand it. Love triangles, I already hate them, but it gets worse when the girl claims to be in love with a guy she's enslaved to, who's clearly emotionally abusing her and is like taunting her for sexual favor. No, not even having it. And then you find out that, oh yeah, she killed the nice guy who's the other part of the love triangle's father. No big deal. Like, also she's like the lost chosen one princess. Oh my god, it was so tropey and cliche, and I don't ever approve of promoting abusive relationships, ever. Not okay with it. Just no. Finally, the literal worst book that I read this year, very close to Sweetbitter, I'm not gonna lie, but it was Because You Love to Hate Me. This was the stupidest book I have ever seen ever. What a ridiculous, dumb concept. And I'm sorry, I love some of these authors that are in here, and I really like some of the booktubers that are in here, but guys, this was dumb. This was like a huge marketing ploy. That was a huge disappointment. I really only liked maybe 2 of the stories that were in there, and even then it wasn't something that I really wanted to read or continue reading. Also, guys, booktubers, when you're giving authors ideas, can you give them better ones? I'm sorry, but it's just like, some of them were so lame. These poor authors, they could do nothing but write a terrible story because the prompt was really terrible. I couldn't stand this entire concept. I was also kind of miffed because of hurricanes we couldn't do our live show, but then the girls ended up doing it without me, which was sad, so I couldn't talk about how much I hated this book, but I really just was disappointed in what this was, and to me it was a whole entire promotional marketing ploy, and it wasn't even good. It wasn't. And so please don't waste your time on it. No disrespect to any of those authors whose work I love individually, and the same with those booktubers whose work I also love individually, but this combination was crap and a waste of trees. Now that we've got all that hate out of my system, let me talk about the 5 best books that I read in 2017. This one I've already mentioned several times over. Can I talk about how much I love Speak Easy, Speak Love? This is the 3rd video in a row that I have talked about this book. I think you're probably sick of it. Basically, I'm just gonna say 1920s retelling of Much Ado About Nothing. Witty, hilarious, amazing, absolutely loved it. Please go and read it, like, now. Then, the next favorite book that I absolutely loved was Blood for Blood, which is the 2nd in a duology by Ryan Guerdon, and this book, Wolf by Wolf, was amazing. This book, I didn't think it could get better. This is a alternative history where the Nazis won World War II, and this girl is experimented on by the Nazis in a concentration camp, and she becomes a skin shifter, and she joins the resistance, and in a motorcycle race that the Nazi youth do, the winner at the end of it gets to meet Hitler, and she joins in order to attempt to kill Hitler. And this is kind of where it all goes awry. And it's so good. It's so good. You have to read Wolf by Wolf before you read this book, but it's not like it's a torture to read Wolf by Wolf. It's amazing, but this is so much better, and I'm having trouble telling you about it because I don't want to spoil anything for you, because you just need to pick it up and you just need to read it. The other book that I have to mention is The Hate U Give. I believe that this book deserves all the hype that it has. I'm really excited for this movie to come out. I'm really proud that this piece of literature exists and that I was able to read it and enjoy it and love it, and that, you know, it was a well-written, well-rounded piece of literature that actually deserves the hype it's getting, and not just for the subject matter, because yeah, the subject matter is controversial and topical. However, it got its hype because it's deserved and because it's good, and Star is an amazing heroine that any woman should take stock in and invest their time in learning about her and admiring her and taking qualities, because she's incredible. And I learned so much in this book as a cisgendered white female. I really liked this book, and it was so good. One of my other favorite books that I read this year was The Conjuring of Light. Oh my gosh, this conclusion to this trilogy was insane! It was so good! Darker Shade of Magic is one of my favorite trilogies ever. V.E. Schwab is a queen. She's just a queen, guys. She's incredible. And this sorry, I can't even tell you anything about it, because if you haven't read A Darker Shade of Magic, about 4 different Londons with all different levels of magic in them, and about a guy who can transfer between the 4 Londons, and he brings contraband in and things go awry. That's what you need to know. This is the amazing, incredible conclusion that was just mind-blowing and fantastic. The last book I'm going to mention on my list today is Ramona Blue. I have not been able to shut up about Ramona Blue. First off, I picked up this book mainly because I felt like I could relate to Ramona. No, I'm not a lesbian, but I'm also 6 feet tall. She's 6'3", and no, I don't have blue hair, but I just felt so connected to her, and she was incredible, and her story was great, and the diversity was awesome, and I loved this idea of class and race and sexuality, and I also loved this examination of one's identity with any sort of morality into it, because the idea of Ramona re-examining whether or not she is a lesbian had nothing to do with her beliefs or Christianity. It had to do with herself, and it was just such a nice, refreshing book that was honest and good and hopeful and tragic, and I loved Ramona Blue, the character and the book. Those are my 5 favorite and my 5 least favorite books that I read in 2017. Link me down to your videos below for your best and worst of the year, or let me know what your favorite or least favorite books were down in the comments below. I'd love to talk to you guys about it. Yeah. Until next time, guys. Bye! Not one of another... I don't have the book right now because my sister stole it. Because I thought she would love it too, and she hasn't given it back to me because she read it over vacation. But I really want it. She also has The Hate U Give. I need to get those books back from her.